Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to head up towards Gothenburg once again, Göteborg as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up there on the west coast, and we're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel a good couple of times before. Now I've had some really nice beers from these guys in recent times, mainly the big kind of sweet sours, but for this one we are going to return to a beer that is perhaps a little bit more conventional, and I've heard that this is a very good one, so looking forward to it, and as always I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one. So for this review then we are going to return to DuckPond Brewing, and today we are having a taste of the single Quack. So this beer comes in at 6.5% ABV. This one is a New England Hazy IPA, however you want to call it, and this was released as part of the Lokal Småska Likt assortment through Systembolaget in Sweden on the 4th of January 2020. So yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. Unfortunately in December I missed out on the double Quack, but hopefully they re-release that at some stage and I can review that for you. But I did hear that Double Quack was a pretty interesting beer. But yeah, 6.5% New England Hazy IPA this one, and I think it's my first IPA in quite a while from DuckPond Brewing actually. I think the very first beer that I reviewed from these guys was a New England sort of hazy IPA, and this could well be the first one I've had from them since then. Most of the beers, as I said, have been like Goses and Berliner Weisses and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely nice to return to these guys once again, and as I said earlier, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So let's go for it then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from DuckPond Brewing before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about DuckPond Brewing then, on to my brewery notes. So DuckPond Brewing, as I've told you previously, were known as Mikrofon, and this company is the brainchild of Nikola Sarcevic, who is a singer and songwriter for the band Millencolin, which has been making music since 1993. I still need to listen to them. I keep saying that every video, but I still need to listen to some of their music actually. But the band was originally based in Örebro, out to the west of Stockholm, and then they took a break and Nikola moved to Gothenburg. But in 2013 he began homebrewing with his friend Christian Silva while he was studying international marketing in Hovde, and the two were brewing just on a very small 20-litre kit actually, and then Nikola went to Berlin to study a 2-week brewing course, and things just started to take off from there. So the two then started the company together, and it was based for a while in Nikola's house, and it was brewing 200-litre batches. But they changed their name in the summer of 2019. From what I understand, that was mainly because Mikrofon was quite difficult for foreign people to say. It was difficult to spell and things like that, and so they changed their name to DuckPond Brewing, which they felt was a little bit more kind of international friendly, if you like. But over the last few years they've been working to increase their output and also their international sales, and that year in 2019 they produced around 70,000 litres of beer. But they're also one of the co-owners of the Wizard Brewing brand along with Morgendagen. So I'm not sure exactly where these guys are brewing their beers. I'm not sure if they've got their own facility or if they are brewing them at Morgendagen's, but or at Spike. I know for a while they brewed a couple of beers at Spike Brewery actually in Gothenburg, so I'm not sure exactly where these guys are brewing their stuff just now actually. I need to try and find that out. I looked up some articles on beernews.se, which is where I get most of the information on the Swedish breweries, but I couldn't really find very much on that actually. So maybe I'll just need to drop them a message and actually ask them where they're brewing their beer. So I'll do that in time for the next DuckPond video, and you will see another one of those appearing fairly soon actually. I'm sure I've got a couple of beers from DuckPond in my February order from the Lokalis Moskalid. But regardless, as of January 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 25 different beers under the DuckPond name, and I think there was about 15 or something like that were previously released under the name Mikrofon Bryggeriet. So yeah, as I always say, nice to return to these guys. That's all I can really tell you about Mikrofon Bryggeriet, DuckPond Brewing. Both of these entities. But yeah, if you want to learn more about these guys, you can of course check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this before we open it up. As you can see, a little bit snazzy, a little bit different from the other stuff that we've seen from Mikrofon Bryggeriet, from DuckPond Brewing in recent times. There you can see the DuckPond Brewing symbol on the back there, which is quite nice. So yeah, 6.5% New England Hazy IPA. This one, from what I understand, this one is single hop Citra, or at least the majority of the hops are Citra in this. It could well be that there's another bittering hop in there, but it did say that this beer was mainly Citra hopped actually, so it should be quite nice. Citra hops, as we know, 13-14% alpha acid, American hops, one of the classic American high alpha acid hops. Lovely big mango flavours with lots of little complexities. Really is one of the hops that can do its thing all on its own. But yeah, 440ml can this. I think as usual I paid somewhere in the region of like 45 Swedish kroners for this can, which translates to about €4.50, about £4 sterling, and maybe about $5.25 American, something like that. But yeah, this one I think should be quite nice. Let's get this guy out then and we'll get on with the tasting. The Single Quack from DuckPond Brewing in Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden. Let's get stuck into this and see how we go. So yeah, here we are, very nice. Yeah, hopefully this one is still in good condition. As I've explained in other videos, I've not been able to drink these beers at their freshest because I was planning to be back in Sweden on the 10th of January, and then I would have gone and picked the beers up from my shop myself. I had to get my friends to go and pick them up for me. But yeah, so these beers that I'm drinking for you from the January Lokalis Moskalid are not in their freshest condition, if you like, unfortunately. But yeah, you know, the darker beers and stuff will be fine. It's just the IPAs that we need to rattle through quite quickly, and of course that's what we're doing, reviewing a couple of these beers in about 2-3 days just to kind of get them done before the next lot come in. But yeah, as you can see and as you would expect from a New England IPA, this one's poured a lovely, I would say, kind of rich yellow colour. This one's got a solid level of haze to it. It's certainly not the soupiest and gloopiest of New England IPAs that I've come across, but certainly, yeah, I would describe this beer as being along the same lines in terms of colour as a sort of straight up mango juice. I always like using the fruit juices as a frame of reference for these New England hazy IPAs because they're always these kind of colours. But you could see when we poured the beer it came out with about a half finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head. That is just fading away to be a very thin foamy layer. Remember, the colour of these beers is dependent on two things. One, the type of malts that you use, and then two, the length of the boil. The longer you boil the water, the more the sugars caramelise, thus the darker colour you get. But again, it's dependent in the first instance on the type of malts that you use, and the level of haziness that you get in these beers as well is dependent on the ratio of like oats and malts, oats, barley malt, and wheat and things like that. So yeah, it just depends on what the brewer decides to do. The yeast can also play an effect as well. But yeah, this is certainly, it's got a good level of haze to it for a 6.5%er, but it's far from the, how would you say, it's far from the soupiest and gloopiest of New England IPAs that you're going to come across, especially at 6.5%. But yeah, it certainly looks the part, this one, of a New England IPA. Let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on with this one. As I said, it's been a long time since I've had an IPA from DuckPond Brewing, actually. And yeah, you know, straight up, very, very old school, this one. Smells as if it leans towards the oaty side of things actually. Get a lot of oat out of this one. As I've told you in previous videos, when it comes to these New England IPAs, they can go in quite a few directions. They can be yeasty and kind of farmhousey leaning, they can be sort of rye and grainy, they can be wheaty and bitey, oaty and creamy, you know, barley malt leaning and bready. Sometimes they can have a good little bit of brown sugar in them as well. So there's kind of 6 directions you can take these New England IPAs. But this one for me strikes me as being quite oaty leaning, but there's a good little bit of a kind of white bready note in the beer as well. But do remember with this review, I'm reviewing this beer at the very end of January, whereas normally it would have been reviewed about 2.5 weeks prior to this. But yeah, the aroma that comes out of this one, I think, is very nice and very solid. I mean, it's quite familiar, this one. This is, first impression is that it's quite a big, bready and smooth IPA, but it's got all those familiar elements you would expect of Citra. So yeah, straight away, nice kind of soft white bready base to this one. You've got a good little bit of wheaty bitiness to it. You've got some nice kind of oaty creaminess in there. Good little bit of, you know, there's a little bit of, I would say, a wee tiny little bit of a kind of brown sugary alcohol-y type thing, but otherwise not that much. I mean, overall, I would say you have to take the aroma in quite deeply to get a bit of the wheat. I would say that this beer is mainly oaty leaning. You get a lot of smoothness and slight sweetness out of the oats, to be quite honest with you. So yeah, a lot of nice kind of smoothness and sweetness out of the oats, and underneath that just a soft kind of white bready character as well. You know, there's some really nice, as I say, just a little touch of sweetness in there. Don't know if I would quite call it, you know, Werther's original butter candy type thing, which is kind of often what you get from New England IPAs, but it does have a little element of that, to be quite honest with you. It has got a little bit of that kind of butter candy kind of thing to it, which I quite like. There is a little bit of that in there. Maybe a wee bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit as well, but not quite as kind of grainy, if that makes sense. But yeah, quite a smooth, bready and oaty leaning New England IPA, a bit of wheaty bitiness, and then just a little bit of kind of sweetness to it as well. But yeah, I certainly like how all of that goes together, to be quite honest. So yeah, lovely smelling beer, this one, I have to say. So take a little bit of time and just ponder over the malty side of the beer. I always think that's quite important to do. But yeah, on the green side of things, on the hoppy side, again, it's kind of what you'd expect from Citra. You can smell it gets a little bit more malty since I've put the last wee bit in. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things, there's a teeny little bit of earthiness there, but the green components again are quite soft, and that's sort of in keeping with the other things that are going on with this beer. Nice sort of floral aromaticity, good little bit of lighter grassiness as well, which is great. So you've got these really soft elements of the Citra kind of showing their head very nicely. So yeah, I'd say good little bit of floral character in there, some soft kind of softer grassy notes. Those are quite well balanced, and it's not really, the green component of the aroma is not really favouring either or, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, on the fruity side of things, again, it's what you'd expect. Nice kind of soft juicy mangoes. You've got a few things like, you know, apricot and you know, just one or two other things kind of creeping in there as well. So yeah, a little bit of apricot, a little bit of a sort of, what would we say? Yeah, a little bit of an apricot, a little bit of a kind of papaya-like thing, which is nice. And then you've also got a good little bit of just, you know, there's a wee touch of like, you know, gooseberry, lemon, limey sort of things. I mean, Citra can give you all sorts of little complexity. So I get a teeny little bit of gooseberry out of this one, a little bit of lychee, and then maybe just a little touch of a kind of lemon, limey zest. But mainly the fruity component of this beer is, it's all about the mangoes and the apricots and the papaya and things like that. Those are the most prominent components of the fruity side of the aroma here. It's giving me an itchy nose, this beer, actually. But yeah, it does have to, I have to say, smell quite nice and quite soft and inviting, this one. So as I always say, take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it, but we're going to have a taste of this one now and see how we get on. So yeah, this is the Single Quack, an IPA coming in at 6.5% ABV from DuckPond Brewing, based in Gothenburg, Göteborg on the west coast in Sweden. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål, cheers. Yeah, that is pretty damn solid, I have to say. Lovely stuff. you know, it's one of the things I'm starting to notice, having been at home and tried a bunch of the English IPAs and some of the Scottish ones as well. I forget, you know, these Swedish ones are stupidly drinkable, and I was actually thinking that, you know, I was thinking that when I went to Scotland and was trying these Scottish and English IPAs, that they felt quite thick and things. And it's interesting because I've said before, the Scandinavian Imperial Stouts, those are really difficult to beat in terms of thickness. It's interesting that when I come back this time, a lot of these IPAs, they seem very light and really just easy to drink. Because that's been one from OO, it's been one from, who was the other one that I reviewed? It's been one from Fermentarana, and now we've got this one from DuckPond that I find very light and just easy to drink. So yeah, that's a really interesting point, although in fairness, this is a 6.5%er. And I think, yeah, I had a mix of different things. So I haven't really reviewed any of the double IPAs that I have from this January lot yet, but yeah, this one, it's very light and very easy going actually, but it's another lovely beer from DuckPond Brewing, so big thumbs up. But that's just a kind of overall thought that's kind of striking me at the moment, so yeah. But yeah, where to start with this beer then? So straight away with this beer, you can feel that nice kind of soft, white bready note just kind of blanketing the middle of your palate, and that's forming the backbone of the beer. As I said, I'm not drinking this beer in its absolute freshest, and you can feel that the sort of oats are starting to almost... I found that when beers are starting to just get a little touch older, you can feel that the oats just start to kind of cream up a little bit. The oats just feel a little bit thicker, and you can still feel that starting to happen in this beer. So again, as I say, this one is not in its absolute prime. It's starting to get towards the end of its prime, actually, but it's still a very, very nice beer in that sense. I can imagine what it would have been like in its sort of in its prime, actually, in its absolute prime. But yeah, where to start with this one then? Let's, as I say, in the middle of your palate you get that nice kind of pale malty, almost crisp white bready base. That blankets the middle of your tongue. As you go further back into the back third of your palate, you can feel there's a little bit of a bread crusty thing. There is a little bit of that kind of bread crusty thing between the middle third and back third of your palate. You do get a little bit of that in there. But then yeah, as you go on to that back third of your palate, there is a good little bit of how would you say? There is a little bit of a kind of a big sort of thick, you know, oaty, not oaty, kind of wheaty sort of thing. You can feel the wheat sort of thickens up this beer in the back third of your palate. It's actually quite a thick, almost quite dense wheaty character that you get out of this one. Not fluffy as you can get from some beers, but yeah, it feels kind of quite thick, to be honest with you. So yeah, that sits on the back third of the palate. At the very back of, that back third of your palate, you'll get a little bit of bitiness out of it, but yeah, a nice little bit of thickness going forward. As you reach that middle third of your palate, a little bit of a bread crusty note, that drops away, and then underneath that you get a soft kind of crisp white bready character there, and then the oats just sit on top of that middle third of your palate actually. So I like how that one goes together. So yeah, I think the further you go into the aftertaste with this one, as I say, you can feel the oats almost kind of cream up a little bit. And you get more and more of that the further you go into the aftertaste, but you can feel the slight sweetness coming out of the oats in this beer, which is definitely quite interesting. So there's quite a bit of that to this one, and again I do appreciate how that pieces together in this beer. It is quite interesting, but yeah, in the middle of your palate you do get a little bit of that kind of butter candy, Werther's Original sort of thing. I don't get I don't really get any biscuit or whatever out of this one. Like, and you've got that oaty layer sitting on top of the crisp white bread, and then the kind of Werther's Original type notes just kind of sitting on top of that actually. So a lovely kind of Werther's Original, just kind of slightly butter candy, brown sugar kind of thing sitting there. That's the alcohol flavour, of course, and it might well be a little bit of the barley malt. But yeah, it's a very straight shooting malt base, but I think it works quite well actually. But this whole beer is, you know, quite oaty leaning, to be honest with you. So yeah, the further you go into the aftertaste, that kind of big oaty smoothness kind of lingers there. You get a few little elements of the crisp kind of barley malt to it, but other than that, not too much to report. To be honest, this beer overall comes across as very just sort of straight shooting in a lot of ways. But yeah, in the back corners of the palate, there's a little touch of earthiness there. As you move further forward, it gets a wee bit herbal. Then as you reach the kind of front corners of the palate, there's definitely a nice little bit of a kind of big floral aromatic quality coming out of this one. So yeah. But yeah, I wouldn't say that this beer is overly green in a lot of ways. The hops come across as quite smooth. Again, they might come across a little bit more kind of prominently, pungently, whatever you want to say, earlier on. But yeah, I think they feel quite smooth at the moment. But around the front curve of the palate, the beer is, you know, distinctly more kind of grassy and light. And then on that front third of your palate, that's where you're getting those nice oily, fruity esters just rolling their way out of the beer. You've got that nice oily bubble there. So yeah, if you go, let's focus on that. So if you go towards that border region between front and middle third of your palate, there's a nice kind of soft, oaty, thick, bready kind of note in there. And underneath you've still got the smooth, oaty qualities as well. But yeah, there's a wee touch, if you go to the back of that front third of your palate, there's a wee tiny touch of passion fruit there. But as you move further forward, you've got a nice kind of, you've got a nice kind of smooth, how would you say it, like sort of smooth mango-y type quality coming out of the beer. And as you move further forward from that, there's maybe a few apricot-y kind of light flavours, but then as you reach the kind of the very front part of that front third of your tongue, there's a wee bit of a kind of gooseberry oiliness in this one, which is really nice, and I do appreciate how that goes together in this beer as well. Actually, I think that really kind of suits it. On the very tip of the tongue, there's a little bit of a sort of lemony, limey kind of quality to it as well. But overall, it's just a very smooth, very drinkable, very straight shooting New England IPA. This one, Citra all the way. Absolutely. So yeah, thumbs up to DuckPond Brewing for this one. You know, sometimes the best way to go is straight shooting. So that's exactly what they've done here. So this is quite a good flagship IPA actually. I wonder if that's the intention with this, is to be a kind of, you know, to be a sort of flagship IPA, because if you're making a flagship IPA like this, you know, you need to have a hop that is, you know, very readily accessible. So, you know, it's Citra with this one, and then that's going to be very easy for them to access, of course, and then it's got a name that's kind of suits their branding quite well. So maybe the intention is that this beer becomes their kind of flagship IPA, which I think is quite a cool idea. So if they haven't been doing that, then that might be worth looking into. So yeah, maybe this beer will return as a regular brew. I think that would be a good kind of flagship IPA for them actually, and quite a few breweries seem to be moving in that direction, to be honest with you. But yeah, thumbs up to DuckPond Brewing for this one. I think this is good. I'm just disappointed I didn't get to try the double Quack. I don't know if that's going to come back, but maybe in the future, who knows. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, to round off this review, what would we say? Yeah, this beer, I would say it's fairly, you know, it's kind of mid-bodied. Carbonation's quite smooth. It's got a good little bit of wetness to it. It feels very, very clean, to be honest with you. But you can feel, as I say, just because the beer is a little touch older, you can feel there is a good little bit of creaminess in there as well. But overall, it's quite a smooth, very clean feeling and just very drinkable New England IPA. In terms of you know, in terms of hoppiness and, you know, all of this kind of thing, I would say, I think this is your fairly standard 25 or 30 IBUs, to be honest with you. The malt base, like I say, is very, very smooth. Little touch of sweetness to it, and then the fruity notes are very, very juicy. A little bit of zest there, but yeah, just mainly a quite smooth and juicy fruity IPA, this one. So yeah, just take a little bit of time and mull this one over. But it's a very straight shooting, Citra focused IPA. You can't really ask much more from these beers than this one's given you. So thumbs up to DuckPond Brewing then. Like I said, I think this would be a very good sort of flagship IPA for them. So I wonder if they will consider that. We'll need to see. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Single Quack 6.5% New England Hazy IPA from DuckPond Brewing in Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden. Let's leave it there. Thank you again for watching my reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from DuckPond Brewing. We will return to these guys fairly soon, I'm sure, but in the meantime I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will catch you guys very soon. Slàinte, skål, cheers, check out my social media, check out DuckPond Brewing, and I'll catch you guys later. Cheers.